A big part of my career has been looking at the therapeutic value of the 12 steps, because the 12 steps really have harnessed some powerful psychological forces that creates an amazing change in our life. What is that change? Well, the truth is that the 12 steps are engineered to help us achieve emotional sobriety, to achieve true independence of spirit, to achieve autonomy, to learn how to take care of ourselves. These are things that we don't know. Emotional sobriety really helps us learn how to have a healthy relationship, how to have union with the preservation of our integrity, how to cooperate with integrity. Most of us get lost in our relationships. Most of us do a lot of things we don't want to do. We don't really know how to show up in a good way. Emotional sobriety is about learning to have healthy relationships. Well, you know the question that's coming, don't you? What stood out for you?
I don't think.
Did anything grab you other than you whispered something? What did you whisper?
I whispered 77.
Shh, you said that too loud.
Hey, I don't mind being that old.
Well, then how come you whispered it? Now, wait a minute. You
All
can't.
right. I shouldn't have.
That was incongruent. If we go
I
back,
get it. I get it.
that's an example of incongruence.
I
But it's
know.
not that you shouldn't have. It sounds like that you're okay with 77. It's not
I am. I'm really okay with it.
See
And I
that?
don't think I have any problems today. I really don't.
Well, it's count your blessings.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Don't
So
expect
thank you.
that, don't expect that to happen tomorrow, though. Just take it one day at a time. Okay, all right. I'll behave. I'll try to behave. That's
Thanks.
easy for me, Susie. You know that. Okay, well, thank you, Susie. And look, what we're doing is we are working our way through the 12 essential insights. My dear friend Roger suggested that the next task we take on here in this emotional sobriety workshop is to go through my book. And we really did, I think, an amazing job at looking at the first one, which is waking up from our sleepwalking. And as we wake up, you know, it naturally moves to what's next. And that's what I tried to do when I was writing the book, was to say, if I have this experience, what comes next? Well, as we wake up, we start to live life more consciously. We start to pay attention. And being more conscious in our life is such a critical aspect of having a well-lived life and living well in our life. It's incredibly important. But tonight we're going to do something a little different than we've done before. In fact, in part of this chapter, I talked about a session I did with a woman called The Good Witch is Coming. And what I want to do is, I'm sure many of you have read that chapter. I want to show you that session. It runs for about 25 minutes. And I want to show you that session with this person. I actually, we simulated it, so it's not with the actual person, but it really captures what happened in that session very, very accurately. So I want to show you that, because I want to show you how she starts to realize certain things about herself as she brings a greater consciousness to herself and her dilemma. So I'm going to be showing you that, and then we will discuss that in the discussion section afterwards. So just give me a second to share my screen with you. I'm going to optimize that. And here we go.
Trauma is a very important issue in terms of addressing with someone who's trying to establish their recovery. Oftentimes, the experiences that traumatize someone undermine that person's ability to be sincere with themselves. In this session, you're going to see me work with a woman who had severe trauma growing up with two alcoholic parents In fact, one of the parents left at the age of 13, and she was with her mother, who was also alcoholic, and then she left at 16, and she became a ward of the court. But through that whole time growing up, she was beaten and verbally abused. Now, in addition to all of the damage that that creates, there's a characterological adaptation to it too. Like a person now takes on that role and starts to do to themselves what was done to them. So in this session, you're going to see me work with the introjects, these terrible messages that this young woman received from her parents and that have now become her own voice. If I'm successful, I'm going to be able to rally some of the resources within her, maybe that she has, or maybe we're going to have to invoke some of those so that she can start to deal with that part of her in a different way. Remember, recovery is the discovery of new possibilities. Hi, Rhea. I'm Dr. Berger.
Hi.
Look, what this is about, it's some time for us to work together. And what I'd like to focus on is where you're struggling the most in your life today. I don't want to take a history right now because if we can look at what's happening now, I think that's going to be the point that we can have the biggest impact, that I can have the biggest impact on what's going on for you. So what I'd like to start with is what you want to change about yourself, where you find yourself at an impasse, or what you're struggling with. So you have some idea what that might be, don't you?
I do.
Mm-hmm. What is it? Yeah.
I have a hard time staying sober. Mm-hmm. I drink too much, basically. I don't know when to stop. And I'll have a couple of months or even a few weeks where I'm good and I'm not drinking. Mm-hmm. And then I have, I get very critical of myself and I get extremely negative, which takes me to this low that just, I have to drown that voice out, and the only way to drown it out is to be drunk. And
so the only way that you know how to deal with that part of yourself, it's safe to call that part highly critical? Is that what you were saying, how critical it is?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So the only way you know how to deal with that is to drink, right? To shut it off.
Yeah, because then I'm numb, so I don't hear anything.
Yeah. So that just tells me how harsh that voice must be, that if it's creating that much pain in you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's really bad, huh? Yeah. Look, I think what would be helpful is, see, I want to separate you from that part of yourself, from that critical, harsh part that goes after you. Because the issue is yes, you have that part of you, but how you cope with that part becomes very important, right? Until you, in your ability to be able to support your recovery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over here right now, okay? And so in that chair, okay, in that chair over there is going to be the part of you that criticizes you.
Okay.
That really goes after you. So I want you to move over to this side real quick. And this is the rest of you. So come on over here. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so go ahead and let her have it. Criticize her. What do you think about Rhea? Tell her directly.
Rhea, you're pretty useless. You weren't smart enough to even complete medical school. You weren't. You can't seem to hold a single relationship because nobody wants you. And why would anybody want you? Because you're not attractive. You can't, I mean, look at you. You've got weight issues. You've got eating issues. You've got all sorts of problems. And you're despicable. There's not a single thing that I can like about you.
You're disgusted with her?
Yes.
Say that to her. I'm disgusted with you.
I'm disgusted with you, Rhea.
This part is very harsh. Come on over here, Rhea. Let's see how, I want to see how you respond to that part of you.
that's really mean, and I'm trying. I try so hard, and I am. I guess I am a failure. I don't know. Just
So
can't manage.
Yeah.
Can't
So
function.
you try to push back, but you're unable to support it. It's like you agree with her, Ria. You do, huh? So tell her that. You're right. I'm no good. I'm worthless. Follow that for a minute.
You're right about everything that you said about me. I'm worthless. I don't have any value, and I don't know what I'm doing with my life.
I'm disgusting.
I'm disgusting. I'm worthless, pathetic. I'm stupid.
Great. Okay, now back here now. Be the harsh part of you again. What do you say to her? She's agreeing with you.
Well, of course you're gonna agree with me. I mean, look at you. You sulk around all day long. You cry. You're whiny. I'm
She's
not
pitiful, huh?
Yeah,
Tell
pitiful.
her that. Yeah, so you're pitiful.
You're pitiful. You're a disgrace. I just can't even look at you. I mean, you're just.
Okay, back here. What do you say to that?
That I am. That I.
Yeah.
But you make it really hard, so it's not all my fault. And every time I try to have a good day, you bring me back down.
You really don't know how to deal with her, do you? I see exactly the dilemma that you're facing, that she has such unquestionable or unquestioned authority in your life. All you can do is try to mount some kind of resistance, but it's not very strong, yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So there's just a very small part of you that disagrees with her, isn't there? Not much of one at all. No.
Just a small.
Yeah. Wow. Well, boy, you sure put your finger on it. You know, when this happens, you don't know how to cope with it. And I can see where that sets you up to say, wow, I might as well take a drink. I mean, what's the matter anyway? I'm hopeless. I can't have a better life.
Right.
You see, it just fills into that whole, or it follows, right? It goes right into that whole thing about I might as well pick up a drink.
It makes it easier.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's the only kind of sense of relief you have, but even picking up a drink is a way of agreeing with her again. You see, that's the dilemma of this. Even what you're trying to do to support yourself ends up agreeing with her, reinforcing what she's saying to you. What we say is that the consciousness that is creating a problem can't solve it, Ria. You just can't solve this problem with the consciousness that's creating it. So let's see if we can somehow invoke a different part of yourself. See, we've got to bring another part of yourself into your life in order to help you cope with her, because you can't do it. I just saw it. I mean, I wanted to see what the possibilities were for you. And, she's your top dog and she beats you up, and all you can do is be the underdog. You said, you're right, I'm no good.
Right.
So has anyone ever protected you in your life? Have you ever felt protected? No, you haven't.
No.
That touches something deep in you. What does that touch? So your mother or your father was never there for you in that way? No. What was it like with them, Ria?
They were both alcoholics.
They were.
They'd fight all the time. I don't think they
And
really.
how would they treat you?
Like a burden. I don't think either of them really wanted me.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So there's never been anyone there for you at all in your life, right? It's tough for you. It's really tough. I can really feel how painful that is for you. Look, since we're going to be like in Disneyland, they have the Imagineers, right? Where they try to imagine things. And so we've got to imagine a part of you that might be able to help you with this. I'm big into Disney because I got some small kids at home, but are there any fairy tales or anything that kind of stood out to you in your life with, like, especially a fairy tale with a fairy godmother or...
I liked Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. What did you like about the Wizard of Oz?
Glenda the Good Witch.
Glenda the Good Witch. Yes, I remember her. Right, she helped Dorothy, didn't she?
She did,
She gave Dorothy the slippers from the...
yeah.
Right? The witch where the house fell on, right? And stuff. Yeah. So tell me about Glenda. What did you like about her?
She watches over Dorothy, and she keeps her safe and
Yes.
makes her feel loved, and
Yes.
she's empathetic towards Dorothy and
Oh boy, I can
happy.
see why that stood out for you, huh? If only you had that in your life, right? Someone that thought of you that way. Well, guess what? We're going to try to bring that into your life right now. I know. You're going like, what is that about? All right, so I'm going to have you stand up for a minute. So just stand up for a second. Yeah. But I want you to stand over here. I want you to face this part of you that's been beat up and abused by this other part of you. Okay, so you're going to be Glenda for a minute.
Okay.
And so start out by just becoming Glenda for a second. So you're going to introduce yourself to me. Say, I'm Glenda the Good Witch. Tell me about yourself. Start out that way. I'm Glenda.
I'm Glenda, the Good Witch.
What do you do, Glenda? What's your job in life?
I watch over kids that are lost.
Are lost, right? Well, guess what, Glenda? We have a kid that's lost here with us today, don't we? Rhea over here really needs you, doesn't she? Okay. What can you say to Rhea to help her deal with this part of her that's just, you know, ruthless and merciless and just tears her apart? What can you say to Rhea? Yeah, I want you to reach out to her if you can. Can you do that with your arms? Reach out to Rhea.
Hi, Rhea. I'm Glenda, the Good Witch, and I'm here to protect you. So, anytime that you feel negative or you feel...
Anytime that she starts to come after you. So remember, you're protecting her from that part.
Oh, right. Anytime that she comes after you, I'm going to be here for you. And I'm going to push her away.
I'm going to make sure you feel safe. Say that to her.
I'm going to make sure that you feel safe.
I'm going to protect you.
I'm going to protect you.
Say all that to her again. I'm going to make sure you feel safe, and I'm here to protect you.
I'm going to make sure that you feel safe, and I'm going to protect you.
Okay, so sit down now. Be Rhea and respond to Glenda. Can you take that in, Rhea?
I'm scared. And I don't know how you're gonna protect me.
Okay, say that to her. How are you going to protect me?
How are you gonna protect me?
Okay, back here now. Be Glenda again.
My stand.
Facing her. Tell her how you're going to protect her.
Every time that she says something mean to you or says something awful, I'm going to be there to push that away and tell you something nice and truthful about you, something that's positive.
So let's go a step further. Say, let me show you how I'm going to do that. Say that to her.
Let me show you how I'm going to do that.
Now turn here, come over here and face this part of her. What do you want to say to that part of her?
You don't belong in Ria's life anymore, and I am here to protect her because she can't have a good life with you still in it, trying to constantly negate everything that she does. So I'm going to push you away.
Right. You say everything you're saying is wrong.
Everything that you're saying about Ria is wrong.
Just like her parents were wrong with how they treated her. Say that to her.
Everything that you're saying about Ria is wrong, just like what her parents said was wrong.
They were not being good parents. Say that. They were not being good parents when they said those things to her.
They were not being good parents when they were saying those things to her.
And I'm not going to let you keep hurting her like that.
And I'm not going to let you keep hurting her like that.
Now put up those arms like you're stopping her. Say it again. I'm not going to
let you hurt her like that anymore.
Okay, now come back here and face Ria again. So say, that's how I'm going to protect you.
That's how I'm going to protect you.
Okay, now sit there. Be Ria. Mm-hmm. Okay, look up at Glenda again. What is that? Do you feel safer right now? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm calmer.
A little calmer. Yes, that's calm is good, right? Because I don't think there's a lot of calmness inside of you at all in your life.
Yeah. I feel lighter.
Yeah. Could you thank Glenda for protecting you? Can you thank her?
Thank you, Glenda, for being there for me, and thank you for continuing to be there for me.
Okay, be Glenda again now and answer. Come over here.
That's what I'm here for, and I will always, always be there for you.
Okay, now stand here. Do you have anything to say to Ria now?
Oh,
Yeah.
the bad one?
Yeah, the harsh part. Ask her what she thinks about what you're doing.
What do you think about me being in Ria's life?
Okay, let's sit down and answer.
I'm not happy about it.
Not at all, right? No. You're used to having your way with her, aren't you? Always.
I've always been in control.
Yeah, just like her mom and dad had their way with her. Nobody ever protected Ria, and you're really her mom and dad's voice that's now becomes Ria's voice.
Right.
And that part that Glenda is telling you that those days are over now. Yeah, yeah. And you won't like it. You'll try everything you can to sabotage this. I know you will. So come on, be Glenda one more time. Because I want to say something to you. Glenda, she's going to try to sabotage this. She's going to try to work around you. She's going to try to find angles. She's going to wait. Your job is, no matter what she does, is to stand up for Ria. No matter what. So say, no matter what you try to do, I'm not going to let you get to Ria.
No matter what you're going to try to do, I'm never going to let you get close to Ria again.
And if you don't know how to stop her, that's where you can use me. When you're going to meetings, that's where you can use the meetings to help you learn how to shut this down. Because if you shut this down, Ria's got a chance. Ria's got no chance if this part continues to do what it's doing to her. All right, now you sit down and be Ria for a second. Well, wow. What did all that mean to you? Huh?
It's a lot to take in.
It's a lot to take in. I was thinking that as we're doing it. It's like, wow, there's so much here. And look, it's going to take a lot of practice of this. This isn't going to just turn around now, because this is a whole lifetime of doing this, right?
Right.
And it's going to feel very unfamiliar to be supporting yourself this way. But this insanity doesn't have to keep going on, Ria. It can stop here. but you need this part of you that you're going to have to imagine. So you might go home and even create a vision board with what that Glenda looks like and have words and stuff so that you can use that as a source of that support. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Great. Good work.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As you saw in that session with Rhea, I tried to see if there was some part of Rhea that I could mobilize, activate to deal with these harsh interjections that she's now internalized from her parents. Well, unfortunately, and this is the problem that Rhea's had, is there was no possibility for her to stand up for herself and to take that other part of her on. So it came to me that we were talking about it is that, my goodness, she needs a good fairy in her life, right? Somebody that could come in her life and help her realize a possibility that she could not imagine. And that's what I did. I introduced the idea of trying to find a Disney fairy godmother, since I have little kids watching a lot of Disney right now, but she went to the Wizard of Oz. And that's really appropriate, right? Because Glenda, the good witch, took on the evil witches, right? The wicked witches. And that's what she really had to do, is to take on this side of her that was so wicked. And so this began a whole new process for her. And if Rhea continues to nurture and nourish that side of her, that Glenda side that wasn't there, right? Because of course it wouldn't be. There was nobody that she could emulate to be that way with herself. If she can give that to herself, she can give herself a whole new life and really be able to support her recovery. I think that we made some huge steps in that direction today.
That really was very close to what happened. I was doing some workshops at Hazleton in Minnesota, and the woman I worked with there at one of the emotional sobriety workshops I did was really struggling with that. And she wrote me 2 years after the thing, and she says that whole piece of work just changed her life. So those can be really powerful things and powerful experiences in our life. You know, especially learning how to deal with and becoming conscious of these different self parts we have, and how to try to bring them together so that the disharmony can turn into a harmony. You know, Fritz Perls said that mental health is an appropriate balance and coordination of all of what we are. Well, that's what I was trying to help Rhea do. So let me invite Roger and Herb into the space right now and see what comments they want to make about this. And then I'm going to continue on my discussion next week of living consciously and say some more things about it. So Roger, good evening. Herb.
Hey, hi, Al. Hi, Herb.
Hello.
You want to take off here, Herb?
Sure. At first, I was very skeptical and resistant to the empty chair and the whole therapeutic process when she began to talk. And Alan he knows chapter and verse in terms of my thoughts about all of that and feelings. And as I listened, though, and I made some notes on, you know what you actually did, Alan, and you may be conscious of this or not, and that you may not even agree with, as I distilled the process, she confirmed right at the beginning her hopelessness and her helplessness with addiction, not only in alcohol, but her food problem, and how she just she just was like out of solutions. And then you introduced her to being conscious, and quite frankly, you did step 2. The good witch. That's right. My God, you gave her a consciousness. Number one, the kind of the introduction, opening the door that she has some agency to reflect on and be conscious of, that there's solution within her. And you personified it actually in this step 2, kind of making a choice that there's a higher self or a the best in me, or you used the good witch. It was powerful in terms of the concreteness of it for her.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to use any of the vocabulary words from a 12-step, fellowship at all. And in fact, you don't have to even. That's the conclusion I came to up to the point where I knew I was going to want to share on this, but I didn't want to be a downer in that therapy is not the solution to addiction, but consciousness is. And that's what you introduced her to. And internally, her own agency of being able to process the consciousness in this way, that she can navigate from the darkness to the light, if you will. Those are my current terms about it. So I ended up being very positive about it.
I love the framework you put it in, because it's a very powerful way
Yep.
looking at her go from hopelessness to some hope.
Yep.
From being despondent to being excited about possibilities.
But the hope wasn't from outside of her.
Oh, she tapped into that, and she said it, wasn't it? See, I think that this is what's amazing about who we are as individuals. When I asked her what fairy tale or what comes to mind, she went to Glenda the Good Witch, and when she described her, it was perfect. Of course that would stand out, because see, what we see in our environment is what we need. If you are hungry and you're driving down the freeway, what are you going to see? Every billboard that's McDonald's, Jack in the Box, Denny's, restaurant. All that's going to pop out, because our needs influence our perception.
Right. Yep.
Powerful. Roger, what was your
a couple of things come up just based on what you mentioned, Herb. I want to just mention these ways of seeking help, these ways of trying to provide help, they're not exclusive to one another, right? There's a psychological focus, of course, to this therapy session, but it's not just a psychological focus. There's also plenty of space and plenty of room here for, the development of a relationship with a higher power for her, for, work in program, work in step work, sponsorship, and that kind of stuff. To me, I see all of this as being about connecting to needed resources, right? Connecting to needed capabilities. And the other thing it brings up for me in a very strong way is often, not always, but often in my experience, it's very important to stay aware that within ourselves and within other people, especially if we notice we've got our judgmentalism going in a strong way. Oh, this person should be doing that. They should be doing this other thing. They should be helping themselves in this way. They should be doing this to help them. They're not doing enough to help themselves. They could be doing this, but they're not. See, all of that stuff, right? It's like sometimes we don't have the ability. It's not just about willingness. We don't have the ability to connect to the resources that we need. And that's where other people, and for some people, a relationship with a higher power, or God, as he or she understands God, can play a really critical element in this. Or as you did in this session, Alan, well, it's not there in reality, so let's explore imagination.
Right.
Because as we all know, we can feel feelings every bit as intense in response to a movie that we're watching, or a novel that we're reading, or a story that somebody's telling us about somebody else's experience, have incredible power to evoke strong feelings, strong experiences. Sometimes we're more open to feeling emotional responses in response to imaginary characters than we're able to do with real characters, because it's much less threatening, right? It's much less vulnerability. creating. So that's the other thing I wanted to mention is I do my best and I still make judgments and stuff sometimes, but when I do it, I try to remind myself, I really have not lived this person's life. I really have not gone through the experiences that they have gone through. I don't know what their capabilities are or not. Let's find that out together when I'm working with the client. Let's explore that together. But in terms of counteracting those introjects, and there are different ways to go about it. Alan demonstrated one of those in this session. Sometimes it's possible, although with introjects that are this negative and this harsh, it's hard to see this. Sometimes there's an approach where you can appeal to the positive intention behind the negative message or the critical part. It's trying to help me find more love in my family if I would just do what it says. It's trying to help me feel more acceptance if I would just be who it says. But in this instance, I think, the idea of just taking a really strong stand and saying, I'm not going to let you continue to do this to her, I think was just very, very powerful. And obviously from the communication she directed at you a couple of years later, it continued to be very powerful and very helpful for her, Alan. So those are some thoughts that I have.
Thanks, Raj. Both of your comments are great, and see it does. See, one of the reasons I wanted to show this is because, I talk all the time about that recovery is the discovery of new possibilities. But we can't do that alone. How many times have we been talking about this? Is that we need each other to do that, right? We really do. And that's part of, I think, the exciting thing about, being a clinical psychologist that I've loved in my career is I get to go into that sacred space with people, right? And to really be able to be present with them in a very, very unique and sacred way. And I'm very grateful for that privilege in my life. And I know you are too, Raj and Herb. You do the same thing with the work you do, man. This is, we hold a very, very sacred space for people when we work with them. And look, that's what this is about. And that's what the 12 Essential Insights are about, is to help you discover new possibilities in your life. And living conscious is a big part of that. And I'll discuss more about living conscious next week. And then the week after that, Herb, you'll go on, if you would take a shot at it, and then Roger, and maybe Tom will be back and join us by then. I know he's starting to feel better.
And Alan, I wanted to add one more thing.
Please.
I really appreciated you emphasizing to her at the end, this is not magic. This is not going to completely change for you as a result of this session. This is going to take practice. And Herb, you emphasize that over and over and over. It's the action that is critical to the change process as well, not simply the consciousness or the awareness. And that's certainly been my experience, especially with very deep-seated and deeply embedded feelings and behaviors for a person. It's a process. It's not an event by any stretch. So I just want to make sure, people watching this session tonight understand that as well. So I wanted to add that piece.
In addition to that, it's very clear to me now in a very concrete way that there are many different people hear and experience things very differently. And that's where stories are so important. And Alan made mention of that, but he demonstrated it through the connection to the Disney fantasy, which created a story that didn't need much telling. I mean, most people actually have had that experience. And that then was the lever that opened her up consciously. In my own experience, that it was very different. It was having people ask me, I was primed for it, I'm sure, by a whole bunch of circumstances, but ask me some questions that I was willing to ask myself. And it began to open the door. And that was the dynamic process. For me, that's what works for me, is the question and then the thought and then the discussion and then some action. And that becomes like a perpetual motion machine.
Does someone need to believe in God to successfully overcome addiction? Well, the way I like to think about what the program does, it connects us to who we really are. And what does that mean? Well, there's this incredible force in you and I, this growth force. It's the force that moved us from crawling to walking. You wanted to take those first steps. And when you fell, and you fell a lot of times, you didn't let your failures stop you. You picked yourself up, you learned from it. And how many times did you fail before you walked? You failed as many times as you needed to. You see that force, I call it a biological imperative, a psychological imperative, a spiritual imperative. It's moving you towards wholeness. It's moving you to be what you can be. Just like in the acorn is all the information it needs to become an oak tree. In you is all the information you need to become you. Become a you that can cope with life and to deal with whatever you need to deal with to be okay. And that's what I'll talk about in my new book, The 12 Essential Insights for Emotional Sobriety.